Now, I'm known to be a notorious PMS skeptic, so Pallav has been very kind in inviting me. And I think one of the things probably that he had in mind is who better than a skeptic to ask the tough questions. But I also hope to be joined by you guys in the last 10 minutes of this panel, where I want you guys to also ask your questions. So, yeah, stay alert, write down what you have, and we'll pass the mic. Um, Now, I'm going to begin with the reason for my skepticism around PMS, which is about tax, right? Whenever the PMS manager books profits, the investor pays tax. On the expense ratio, there is no tax deduction, etc. So, a new kind of PMS has actually emerged, which is a mutual fund PMS, a PMS investing in mutual funds, which tends to keep the churn low. And that's something that I want to ask Iqbal about, because that's one of the products that he offers. If you can begin with you, sir.
So thank you. When we talk about PMS, it's a very early stage, and Pallav has already shared the numbers in terms of the 2 trillion rupees of PMS right now. If you will not consider the PSU funds which is there, EPFO money, if you will just exclude that. So right now, the mutual fund industry has grown. If you see that currently the total asset under management in mutual fund is around 75 trillion INR right now, and it is growing. And if you look at the distribution of that 75 trillion rupees, 50% has already become direct, and 50% is regular. And lot of people, lot of family office, HNIs, they are all moving direct because they feel, again, I'm saying because we started as a distributor, they feel that I don't think that distributor is adding that kind of a value. So then we thought like what we should do. So we actually started, apart from our large cap strategy, we also started the PMS in mutual fund, where we are deploying all the funds. We are actively monitoring, managing the mutual fund, where we are putting almost 6 to 7 guys who have delivered consistent returns over so many years, and created that product with back tested with BSE 500, and investing it directly rather than investing it regularly, where we are saving our total expense in direct is almost 23 bips, and over and above we are actively managing and charging the fees, which is also very reasonable. We charge 0.75% as a fees over and above that. So the client is the beneficiary, because today in mutual fund industry, the biggest challenge is how the markets look like, in which scheme I should invest, mid cap, large cap, small cap, how much I should invest, when somebody is going to do the rebalancing. Even I have seen and experienced with many family offices, they buy the mutual fund, they say that we have saved the cost because we are going direct, we are not going through regular, but nobody is taking care of them actively. So here the active management will happen. In fact, we are actually tracking the style of each and every person, how effectively he or she is delivering the result, and none of the portfolio in PMS is overlapping and complementary. So one large cap, one large and mid cap, one flexi cap, one multi cap, one small cap, or one thematic theme. Currently in our thematic theme, we have put up in Kotak Nifty Financial Services X Bank, which I feel is the next driver, because everything is overweight on financials at this particular point in time. So platforms, consumer play, indirectly we are playing through that particular theme and overweight that as a fund which has an expense of almost 20 bips. So this is a very new thing, because today you have so many AIF, so many PMSs, it's a totally overcrowded space. If you save the cost, everything has been democratized, but if you save the cost, so in our platform, no brokerage, no lock-in period, no exit load. So this is a kind of thing, the product is a totally disruptive. But definitely, it's a customer-centric product where the costs are very low and distribution fees is also very low.
And you also onboard third-party distributors into that, right?
Yeah. All welcome for all the distributors with us, and we are going to share the whatever we are going to charge the fees. Plus, we are also share the performance fees with all the distributors.
All right, Bhaskar. A lot of people might get confused about what IIFL now has in the PMS space after 361 and sort of the separation. So, can you tell us about your investment style?
So very quickly, I think just to sort of clear it out, 361 after they got separated is now a absolutely separate company. I'm part of IFL Capital Asset Management, and we want to rebuild the wealth and the asset management business because that's where the future is. It's a very exciting space, as we all know. So I'm part of the asset management. We have started building our asset management business in the last 6 months. And as we move ahead, today as we speak, we are close to 12-1300 crore, including PMS and DPMS. So that's about I.
Sorry.
Was there any other question that you had?
Yeah, can you talk about your style? How do you pick
Yeah.
stocks?
So let me give you let me ask everyone about one stock and give you an example. This company called Hindustan Unilever, HUL. We all know it's a fantastic company, right? And let me give some data and perspective around it. Last 5 years, Hindustan Unilever has given zero return, right? Stock hasn't moved. It used to be around 24, 2500, and it's still the same. As a long-term investor, as a investor who loves investing in quality stocks, if somebody would have bought HUL, unfortunately, it did not create return. But let me give another data point. A company which did not create any return in a 5-year period ended up giving 35, almost 34 to 35% return in 3 time periods within those 4 years. Um, so just imagine 3 times you were able to make 30-35% return, but nothing over a 4-year period. And that's where we step in. We realize that there are a lot of stocks, a lot of companies which are excellent companies, great cash flows, run by excellent management, and HUL is a classic example of that. I don't think there is a management pedigree which is, I mean, it's a top notch, right? So what we are doing is basically there are a lot of stocks that we noticed which have become mature, which are not growing that fast. And a tactical orientation we thought really helps in those stocks, be it a HUL, be it a Infosys, or some cyclical stocks. So we run a tactical strategy that's called IFL Blue Chip Alpha, where the whole strategy is about buying right and selling right. We look at value, deep value in large cap stocks or larger mid cap stocks. And whenever those deep value arises, which can happen for various reasons, it can be because of a narrative. It may necessarily not have a very fundamental impact on the earnings of a company, and the market sort of tends to get nervous, or it can be purely because of a very short-term phenomenon on a company, some commodity prices shooting up, impacting the margins of the company. So we look at value, search opportunities, get in once there is a trigger available on those stocks. And this has happened in HUL 2-3 times. So it's a value strategy with trigger, tactical, buy right, sell right, and with very, very low risk. So yeah.
How many stocks do you hold then?
It's a slightly concentrated strategy, around 16, 17 stocks. And the reason it can be concentrated and there is still very low risk despite that concentration is because of 2 reasons. One, it's a large cap oriented strategy, so automatically it brings down the risk. Second, you're buying technically large caps at value because it's a value oriented strategy. And when you buy a good quality large cap at a value, the drawdowns generally will be very, very minimal. And therefore, we run little concentrated on this 16 to 18 stocks.
And this was launched when?
This was launched in May, beginning of May. We got our first check on 14th May. And it's been now, we are building up that capital. The strategy has done well for us. And it's a classic market where this strategy is really doing well for us because as we all grapple, I mean, everybody is talking of mostly the same thing. Nifty chal raha hai, but apna portfolio nahi chal raha. I think it's 70-80% people who are the last 1 month, 2 months is the same. This strategy has created good returns. It's created almost 8% return over the last 4-5 months. And despite the fact that we were building capital, because not every capital gets deployed on the first day compared to some of the other PMSs which are already fully invested. So yeah.
All right. Pradeep, can you talk about your investing style and a background as well on Greenland?
So we run a Green Lantern Capital LLP. We are a boutique investment house focusing largely, predominantly on the small and mid cap space. And today we have a AUM of around 1,300 crores. Our focus has been, the style of investment or the investment principle at which we work is we want to buy the right business run by a reasonably competent management at appropriate valuations. And we give a lot of focus on understanding the underlying business, because at the end of the day, when we are buying equity, we are buying the business of that company. So we spend a lot of time understanding the value drivers of different industries, subsectors, and our focus is if there is any, if there is an inflection point in any of these, we want to be catching that, because that has been very rewarding for us. As long as the company in which we invest has a decent position in the underlying product or services market, and if the sector fortunes are turning or about to change, I think at that time the valuations give you the highest margin of safety, so that appropriate valuations question gets largely taken care of, and then the investment becomes usually rewarding as the cycle turns. So we want to focus on good businesses, but we try to see that most of them are having some sector tailwinds, or something is happening where the fortunes are changing. And we are also focused at the same time on margin of safety, because once the sector is discovered, probably the margin of safety is not as great. So your biggest sweet spot is if you can find at an early stage, at the turn of the fortunes, or reasonably earlier than others, and then ride the that has been your focus. And typically we run around 25 stocks portfolio, and we are not momentum chasers, so we don't like to chase momentum. We are that way very disciplined in terms of, and we are very focused on margin of safety, because ultimately whatever risk management techniques and all you use, ultimately your entry price gives you the margin of safety, and that's what will determine your broader investment performance.
What is the market cap split?
Currently, I think around 75+% would be in mid and small cap. So we are sector agnostic. We have some large caps. Like we were throughout last 2-3 years, we were more bullish on public sector banks. Now most of them by sheer size have large caps. At the 4-5 years ago, when the NPA problem was clearly over, we could, focus is corporate lenders should do well. But we searched and there were no corporate lenders left, right? Because everybody, even the PSU banks, are focusing on the RAM model, that retail, SME, and agri. And we found one Power Financial, which was probably the closest you could get to a corporate lender in the space, because there is no pure corporate lender left, right? Unlike in 2014, 15, 16. So that's how we operate. So our focus is on the right business, sector agnostic, and return. So because of that, we tend to have a larger small and mid cap portfolio, because the potential profitability returns are higher. But we are sector agnostic. We do have large caps.
All right. Now, one big theme this year has been, as I think Bhaskar said, कि Nifty चल रहा है लेकिन अपना portfolio नहीं चल रहा है. So how does one generate alpha in a year like this, which is volatile, which is tough? Let me begin with you.
Yeah, I think I'm great that that's the topic of this event also. We've all seen last couple of years, not just the last year. I think markets have been very volatile, especially last 12 to 15 months. Market has a tendency, and this tendency has aggravated in a recently because of the advent of social media, the WhatsApp groups, etc. Every news on any company, and I've seen this happening of late a lot. Any news which may not be very fundamental to the company, may not be very material to the company, stock moves up and down because of that. And that's the reason for volatility. We used to have a company in our portfolio without naming it. I mean, when the H-1B visa got sort of the Trump administration announced restrictions around that, only one employee out of 40,000 employees in that company was having H-1B visa. But market felt, look, this is a mid-cap company, there will be a challenge in that, and it started punishing the stock. And I think as money managers, as fund managers, if we can use this volatility to our advantage, I think that's where we will be able to create value.
Sorry,
So I think-
Bhaskar, if I could put it in more blunt terms, is it the stupidity of retail investors that gives alpha to
I won't say that.
smarter money?
See, I would never say that. I think it's very inappropriate to call any part of the market, be it a FI, DI, retail, HNI, to be stupid. I think everyone has their own strategy. And it's not appropriate. At times, I mean, even as money managers, there have been times, Neil, that I felt very stupid about some of the things that I've done. So I think that's inappropriate. That's the nature of the market. We are living in a volatile world. We are living in a world that is getting disrupted, and therefore this volatility arises rather than, and I've seen, I mean, when we launched our PMS, I've done almost close to 500, 600 meetings in the last 4-5 months. And I can say that some of the investors in some of the markets that I've seen, be it Gujarat, Rajkot, Surat, and somebody may always say that, look, these are not very intellectual people, but I can tell you that they have created humongous value just by buying stocks. Let me come back to the volatility part. I think so because of whatever, I mean, some of the reasons that I mentioned, the volatility has become higher. As money managers, I think if we know our business, and Mr. Pradeep pointed out to a very important point, the margin of safety. I think if we know our business, if we've done our homework well, those margin of safety arises. I think this whole volatility and inefficiency on both sides, where stocks trade below their fundamental value at times because market is worried about some short-term thing, and on the contrary, I mean, once it goes back to its fundamental value, driven by the growth or the earnings or the real potential of the company, there can also be sometimes narrative which can take the stock beyond its fundamental value. So I think as money managers, if we can be really deep into our stocks, be very focused, and use this volatility, I think that's where we will be able to create a lot of value. And I think to good money managers, honestly, I would say this volatility brings a lot of opportunities.
Sure. No, I mean, you hinted at it, which is why I just use a blunter term. But Iqbal, any thoughts on volatility and how you capitalize on it?
Yeah, I just want to share with you, when we talk about creation of an alpha, you know, our Indian markets, when we talk about Sensex, which started in 78, 79 from 100, and where we are today. So ultimately, CAGR of around 16.5%, 17% is a CAGR for our market, which is actually delivering in the form of beta, not in the form of alpha. So ultimately, if you are participating in the market and not chasing the alpha, even in that case scenario also, you are making 18% kind of a return. But definitely you have to be patient enough, because we have seen many cycles. So one thing is very clear, in 2008 when the subprime crisis happened, so I was at Wharton to study investment strategies and portfolio management. And there, it was taught that we did a lot of case studies on S&P 500 because S&P 500 has a history of almost 150 years. So in that, the conclusion came out is that over 150 years, if time approaches infinity, alpha is always zero. So for India, again, I'm just talking about 46, 47 years. And for that matter, for Nifty, which was born in 1995, 1996, even if you will get the beta return, which is reasonable enough, we have seen so many downside, we have seen so many scam, we have seen so many issues in Indian capital market. But even in spite of that, 18% kind of a return on a CAGR basis over a longer period of time is enough. But now coming back to a point, how we can create, again, I'm saying that we are talking about most efficient market, which is S&P 500. Maybe our markets are not that efficient. You always have some inside information. You have a better material information. So you can generate alpha. Yes, depending upon if you are buying a deep value, we have some location disadvantage, and we always trade in a large cap strategy from last 5-6 years. But deep value with a complete discipline, I think that will definitely create an alpha. Even in the tough time also you create an alpha. So what is our strategy? Because I wrote for HDFC Bank technical newsletter for 4 years in my starting of my career from 1999 to 2003, 2004. So we use fundamental, we use behavior, and then we translate that into technical. So the point is that we are identifying the deep value, and in deep value, when we have to buy, we will definitely transform that into technical side, that when we should buy. So I think that has given us an edge, discipline, investing, having a patience capital, buying in tranches, continuous booking profit on a continuously basis. So even in the large cap strategy, which is published by PMS Bazaar, last year, we delivered around 12.5% return against 8.5% of Nifty. And even this year, our return is more than 15.5% against 7.5% of Nifty. So the point what I want to share with you is, if you remain disciplined, and last but not the least is the cost. If you will also control the cost in favor of the customer, that will also generate alpha on the client's portfolio.
Right. Pradeep?
So when we are talking of volatility, I mean, essentially we're looking at downside volatility or correction, right? So it can be at aggregate market level and at sector or stock level. At aggregate market level, I think it will only happen when there is a massive, downgrade of expectations of earnings growth for the entire economy as a whole, or there is, and most of the time it also happens that the cost of capital also changes. Your discounting rate shoots up because of it.
Can you spend some time on earnings growth and how it's been this year, whether it's met expectations?
I think expectations is, I mean, I don't know, expectations are getting downgraded every quarter, right? So at the start of the year, you expect 15%, then end of the year, mid of the year, say this year it will be 10%. So if you see absolute, like I was just looking at NSE 500 results, recent concluded. So in that, around 90 odd BFSI companies had around 7% earnings growth. The 410 odd non-BFSI companies had, I think, 20% sort of earnings growth. In that, 65 or 70 companies from metals, cement, oil and gas gave you 65% growth. So non-commodity sectors which did not have a low base last year, the earnings growth, top line growth has been around 8-9%, earnings growth is around 10%. So if you see last 2-3 years, the top line growth is slowing, but in 23-24 we had the EBITDA margin expansion, because prior to that you had the Ukraine war and all the input prices were high. And now both the margins are stable, they are not massively declining, but top line growth is not. So we are in that 8, 9, 10% growth there.
Okay. Do you want to complete the one volatility?
So volatility, so at market level is a very macro event, but volatility at sector or stock specific level keeps on happening, and that is where gives you the alpha opportunities. I mean, one way of generating alpha is buy in the good companies which are growing and just sit tight. The other part where you can make money is when a sector goes through a downturn, and if that fortunes are turning, people are pessimistic about it, and that's where you can make. I mean, simple examples like pharma in 2009, or as 2017, this small and mid caps were rallying, and IT was a totally return of sector. CY 18, NSE IT index delivered 60% return. So you can say PSU banks, as even post COVID, when the market had recovered, even at say index was Nifty was around 11,000-12,000, PSU banks were still a neglected part, when actually 2 years before COVID all the asset quality pains had already been recognized, and bulk of it was over. So one is that you look at sectors, subsectors. 23, lot of this power sector utilities or power sector was a neglected sector, and you made big money in 23, 24 in the power sector. The other part is on stock specific level, when a good a good stock in a bad sector, or a good company which is driven by very bad news, so there are very good opportunities for creating alpha.
Okay. Iqbal, if I can quickly come to your market outlook, any sectors or themes that you're bullish on? Please give us your outlook.
So when we talk about market outlook, again, one thing is very clear, that the downgrade cycle is stopped, or we are now looking at an upward trajectory. There are 3-4 things which is working as a tailwind. The first is that the direct taxes benefit in this financial year, which was given to households or individual, then followed by RBI policies, as well as the liquidity which they have injected, and the rate cut cycle, and the kind of liquidity which they have injected, that has led to a strong transmission at the end consumer side. And last but not the least is the GST reforms, which is again a tailwind. And I think the third quarter numbers are likely to be much better than the second quarter number, because all festivity and everything will be there in the third quarter. So when we talk about Nifty 50, again, I think we started with the two things which is very, very important for any market to do well. One is that earning, and second is the earning growth. So markets are always slave of earning and earning growth. So the point is that we have seen that in the past, we have seen a downward cycle of the earnings, but that has stopped. First quarter, our growth was around 5.5%. Second quarter is around 8.5% to 9%. Third quarter trajectory is upward. We are expecting around 10%, and then fourth quarter maybe 10-11%. Markets are always forward looking. I think today we are touching all time high, because markets are always forward looking in the third and fourth quarter numbers. We have seen in September last year 26,277. I think today we are touching that level again after 1 year. So the trajectory is up. The question mark is whether that slope of that trajectory is how much the slope is up, or it is flat, or a marginal up. So that is one area. Another area which again the topic is suggesting is how you can create alpha, and in the market where, so in a current scenario, there is a very, very big regulatory risk which is looming around on financial services business, and it is there for some time, whether it's on the cost front, whether it's expiry of broking firms or wealth management firms. So there are a lot of things which is looming around, but because of that, the index, as you were talking about, so index level, I am very bullish on a theme which is X-Bank. So the point is that if you see India, I'm saying whether you talk about Nifty 50 or you talk about Nifty 500, I think India is the only country where the financial is either 37, 38, 39%. It's quite overweight. Even today, if you look at the cheapest sector in terms of valuation is banking, which is hovering around 13 multiple. The dichotomy is that where there is a deep value or the stocks are cheap, but the growth visibility is the biggest question mark. And wherever there is a growth, I think there the valuation is the question mark. So the point is that how we are going to address that, how we are going to look at it. So we always use as a thumb rule, which is called price earning to growth, PEG. If PEG is 1, that means the expectations of earning growth and the P multiples are, matching. But when PEG is low, that means price are little depressed, devalue, and it will unlock its value in the times to come. So the point here is that so financial services X Bank, I think this is the very strong theme one can play. Indirectly the consumption theme, one can play the capital market theme, one can play because the top 10 constituents in that particular index, because these are the 30 company which has been chosen out of 500 index, and the topmost companies Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, BSC, Cholamandalam, Sundaram Finance, insurance aggregator, PB Fintech, Paytm, and some wealth firm and some insurance firm, top 3 insurance firm, which because of this GST, which is zero now, they are also going to do well in the third and fourth quarter. So because of regulatory issue, Angel One. So these are the some of the play, which is asset light models. And I think next 2-3 years, all these things will around capital market, around wealth management, around consumption theme as an NBFC, they will do well.
I'm going to quickly come to Bhaskar and then we'll pass the mic around. So just be ready with your questions. We'll maybe have just 4-5 minutes. So please be ready, Bhaskar.
Sorry, what's the
On
question?
market outlook.
On the market. Yeah, so I think largely agree with the participants here, including Mr. Iqbal, what he said. I think very strong stimulus being put in. We've seen our economy to be slower than what we all expected in last 1 year. But I think very strong stimulus both in terms of the direct tax where the lower part of the strata there was an income tax benefit that was given that started from April. That started to percolate down into the economy, followed by 3 RBI rate cuts, 25, 25 and 50. And that's a fairly substantial rate cut of almost 100 basis points that's flowing into the system. And my interactions with most of the lenders and the banks suggest that they've been very proactive to pass on these benefits and transmit this into their loan book and into the economy very fast. The repricing on the deposits, of course, will now happen. And thirdly, I think most importantly, the GST reform, as we have seen, it's a substantially important reform that government has done in terms of cutting the rates in some of the categories where they have cut. They've done it very judiciously, in my opinion, chosen the right categories. And we are seeing the effects of all of that play out. And therefore, I think as growth is recovering, our valuations a year back, if we look at the markets, clearly we are not cheap. I would say there was various pockets in the markets where the valuations were really expensive. I think a lot of that has normalized. I will not say that everything today is also cheap. It's still sort of difficult to find a stock where, like you rightly put it out, growth with value. Growth hai lekin value nahi hai, ya value hai but growth nahi hai. But I think now that situation is changing, as I can see, especially if growth revives. I think from a year perspective, as we head into the second half of the year and next year, our sense is that growth will recover fairly well. It should sustain. That's the feedback that we are getting from the ground. With valuations normalizing, I think over a period of next 12 to 18 months will be okay. I still believe that and I think market has been very narrow in the last especially in the last 6 months when the recovery also happened from the bottom. I think that that narrowness will slowly become a little broader as those economic growth benefits percolates down to lot of mid and small caps getting that tailwind from the economy to grow better than that they were. So I think net quite positive from where we are. The risk reward is better. I still believe that not everything will make money in the next 12 to 18 months. Rightly chosen stocks and sectors will still be the way to go.
All right, thanks. Can we, yeah, a couple of hands up there, and if you can have the lights in the audience, otherwise we can't see the hands. Yeah, go ahead. Sir.
Yeah, hi, my name is Vivek Dinda and I have a question for you, Neil Burate. Are you convinced now to invest in PMS? And if not, what would it require that you may park your 50 lakhs or 1 crore in PMS or AIF? I would like your views.
So my skepticism, as I've written about, stems from the taxation of PMS on profit booking. You can't claim the expense, the dividends, etc. So I think one good solution to that is a PMS of mutual funds where the churn is low. And I mean, for pure equity PMS, we have to really think hard. That alpha has to really prove itself to justify. All right.
Hi, my name is Manish. I am an individual investor. I have a question to all the panelists over there. Since Iqbal Singh has said the price is slavery of earning, since last 1 year, all the portfolio manager, I hope, are facing the same problem where earnings are coming but stock price are not moving. That is why your portfolio is not growing and they are not beating even the BSE 500 or Nifty 500, except some large cap, which obviously Bhaskar has said our large cap up from 7-8% because I am assuming the portfolio is only large cap. Especially in mid cap and small cap, earnings are coming, stock are not performing. As an individual investor, I have a limited capital. If I invested 100 rupees, now earning is coming, stock valuation is going more attractive. I invested at 80 rupees also. What should be the mindset I have to control to hold that stock? Obviously, and what mindset you have? At what kind? I have a classic example of lot of stock over there where the drawdown is coming 20%, 25%, 30%. And I met lot of fund manager over there because I have a 2-3 PMS account also. They are also facing the same problem and saying we cannot do anything, we cannot timing the market. So how you hold that stock, at what rate, and what kind of drawdown you are expecting, and at that level I have to cut whether the earning are coming or not and I will get out, or you will keep on hold like that.
Great question. I think if I
Sorry, who's the question for? Can you elaborate? Who's the question for? All. Okay. Go ahead.
So I just want to share with you the commodity which is in a scarcity is called a patience capital. So the point here is that, Warren Buffett, again, I'm just quoting, the money moves from impatient to patient. So first of all, the most important thing, again, whenever anybody is going to invest, and you have to do your emotional control also. And definitely, I have already shared that markets are slave of earning and earning growth. And that always happen, but there are periods where, markets are always irrational. Don't consider that markets are rational. Markets are always, this is the attributes of the market. Markets are always irrational. So the point is that at what point in time we are entering in that irrational market. And I personally feel, I have already elaborated and shared with you in my opening remarks, that if you don't want to even chase alpha, the beta is around 18% for India, which is not again, I'm not saying that you should not chase alpha. You should definitely chase alpha. Now, there is a lot of information, lot of track record. There are a lot of agency like PMS Bazaar, everything is available today in the public domain. So the point here is that I personally feel that whenever you are investing in PMS, as you have rightly pointed out, there is a likelihood that stock will not move maybe for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, because that is testing your patience. So I think the most important thing over 21 years when I manage the institutional money of bank, or I am managing at a fiduciary responsibility of money of the clients today, I think the only attribute which I keep with me is patience capital. And definitely that patience capital also require a lot of things in terms of meditation, in terms of don't get carried away, in terms of be calm in tough times, in volatile time, in terms of रिजल्ट नहीं आ रहा, प्राइस मेरा मूव नहीं कर रहा, अर्निंग नहीं आ रही, प्राइस मूव नहीं कर रहा, you know, these are all questions which comes in our mind every day as a portfolio manager, and the pressure from the client. But I just want to share with you one of the interesting analogy and the sharing. You know, the large alpha which came in our PMS, which I am running from last 5-6 years, because I was also managing the managing the treasury money of HDFC Bank way back. There is something called active weight, active share. So we are not hugging the index, but the biggest challenge in active weight is that you never know when the alpha will come, whether it will come in 6 months or it will come in 1 year, it will come in 2 years. Because we are, first of all, you have to have a full conviction that yes, wherever I have invested, I have done a complete homework. I have to remain patient. Alpha will come sooner or later, and that will come so much that it will cover up all their underperformance of 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years. So, active weight is one of the key attributes that I always feel that will always give an alpha, but you can't give the time frame in that. So, for that you require the patience capital.
Let me, if I can take half a minute to just add on to what Iqbalji said. Let me give a very small example. I think that's a very, very important point that he mentioned. At times we think that, look, the earnings of our companies have come and market should start looking at it right away. Doesn't happen, right? Every stock is being followed by a set of investors. Today I look at, there are 500 stocks in BSE 500, but I don't look at all of them, or I'm not on top of all of them at any point of time. So people, eventually that will get rewarded. And let me give you one very small example. We used to hold MCX. That's a stock that's become almost 8-10 bagger in the last 3-4 years. And I remember there was a time when they entered the option segment in commodities. The option data, as we could sort of track it on their website on a daily basis, they were stacking it up. The numbers were moving. Just to give a perspective, the equity option market, the NSE and BSE put together, and even then it was close to 60,000 crore ADTO per day. And MCX was very new to the options segment. They were hardly clocking 50-100 crore. And if we said, look, even if they do 5-6% of this 60,000 crore, today that number of course is 70, they will reach 3,000, 4,000 crore kind of a market on ADTO, which will mean the profit of the revenue of the company 3-4 years back, which was close to around 350-360 crore. Today we are looking at that will become almost the profit of the company per quarter. There was a time for almost a year when, despite that number scaling up, the market was just not looking at it. The stock was not moving up because there was a lingering software issue where they were transitioning to a new software, and because there was some delays in that, market was just not looking at it. But eventually, I think any investor who held on to that, I remember my days, those times we were underperforming for a fair bit of time, and once that software issue got resolved, we were tested the patience. Stock started moving up. In just 6 months, we just, from underperformer to significantly outperformer is where we headed to. So I think eventually market rewards earnings. We need to be just more patient with us, keep tracking the company well, keep understanding the earning growth and where they're moving, and things most of the times, I will say 8 out of 10 times will follow.
All right, thank you very much. I know a bunch of you have questions, some of you have the mics as well, but have lots of glances from the organizers. We exceeded the time, so unfortunately we have to wait for the break. Thank you so much, everyone.